Mics this time around, just where the computer is the mic.
We have one mic, and if we are roaming with it, we have to bounce it back and forth between speakers.
Okay, so we'll keep it here, and then if it ever gets quiet or whatever, just let me know.
Where's the...
All right. Yeah. All right, everyone. It is 6:30. We try to hold RTD accountable, so we got to hold ourselves accountable to start on time as well. So if you could all kindly find a seat. Welcome to Greater Denver Transit. We hope you enjoyed your July off. But it's been a really, really exciting summer, and there's still tons and tons of stuff coming up this fall to get all caught up on as a group. But if this is your first time, we are Greater Denver Transit. My name is James Flatten.
I'm Emma Griffin.
Emma Griffin. We got Richard.
I'm Richard Bamba.
Keith. And we are a grassroots advocacy group focused on improving transit in the Greater Denver Metro. And in respect of time, I think we should just jump right in, right?
Let's jump right in.
I think I have the first one. All right, so let's start off with a little bit of real life for a second. For those of you who have been following, this is now, May is the last bit of data that we have. This is RTD's 6th consecutive month of year-over-year ridership declines. So we are going in the wrong direction. For those board members who have been confused about why this is happening, when you have the southern half of the system be sick for 3 years, right, where people have been struggling to use the light rail system for the last 3 years, eventually you begin to see this in other lines. People who used to transfer stop transferring, and all of a sudden, because transit's a network, heavy rail, light rail, it's not just light rail anymore, heavy rail, including the A line, is actually now declining on a year-over-year basis. So we are not recovering right now. We were on a recovery trajectory until kind of mid last year, and you can see that we stagnated in 2024. RTD is currently losing riders. Operator shortage. So here we continue to see improvements where we've had increases in bus year over year. Light rail is still ticking up, but we've still got a considerable amount of vacancies that are causing a lot of problems, right? I think for those of you who've been following the news, right, and also following Reddit, there have been a couple really high-profile baseball games, basketball games earlier in the spring that are continuing to have people have experiences where they just can't get home. Because there are not operators to run the trains, and RTD cancels the service even after advertising they are running service to said game. So real key areas for improvement and getting on top of the retention issue continues to be a priority that we will be talking to our board partners about. Richard, I believe you have this one.
Yes. So one of the big things on RTD's sort of slate of things they've been doing is they were having a paratransit peer review. They were taking a look at 2 major paratransit services, which is the Accessoride. Those are the fully accessible vans that RTD runs, and then what they also do is sub out to likes of Uber, Lyft, and cab companies, something called Access on Demand. And Access on Demand is for people that still have a qualifying disability, but they don't necessarily need a fully equipped van. So a good example is, say, if they're blind. They don't need a full wheelchair lift in the van, so therefore Uber can, sometimes it may be appropriate to take them. The issue with the Access on Demand is because it's run by Uber and they show up within 5 minutes and they give you a tracker app, and RTD pays the first $25 of that. Funnily enough, that's become wildly popular. Okay, because it's actually better than the transit we have. So there's a lot of concern in RTD that the utilisation. I mean, let's just say you can't just, not anyone can use this. You have to qualify for that. You actually have to be disabled. So there is a limited amount of people in theory. But of course, what it has absolutely done is it's brought a whole load of people who can qualify for the disabled sort of transit services into and using RTD. So there's some concern. What happened is they've been considering a few things. By and large, there seems to be only one big bugbear with the service, is it doesn't let you use the multi-stop option, which if you can do that. If you've got, say, I think we've all done it with Uber, where if there's 2 of you, you can drop a friend home and then carry on, things like that. What people were doing was reasonably using that for errands, post a letter, something like that. They removed that. That seems to be the only thing with the Access on. It seems to be very well received, by the people who use it. So what RTD's been doing is reviewing that They're thinking of bringing in a fare. It all sort of passed through the Operations Safety Committee. It went to the board, and basically the board rejected what the initial committee said. Okay, so there's now a big debate on what to bring in as a fare. So you almost, I guess one way to explain it is you would pay the first either 250, 450, 650, that's what they're arguing over, and then RTD would subsidise, and then they've been trying to trim it. So at the moment, one of the things is Uber's 24/7, for example. Try and close the system for overnight and try and make it. So there's a concern.
Crabs in a bucket.
Yeah. The overall thing we're finding is they're trying to basically trim the cost of the programme from 15 million to 10 million. Our position overall as GDT is you're literally attacking the wrong part. The one service that we hear time and time again that is not right, needs a lot of attention, needs a full review, is the access on demand. The access ride service, which I've described it. Does anybody remember using Super Shuttle to and from the airport? No. Have we really all forgotten about Super Shuttle?
Yeah, I know.
Did you got over it?
Most of us of a certain age used to.
Some of us of a certain age remember Super Shuttle and remember cursing your decision as it took you around a tour around Aurora to pick up some random person, and then you finally got to Denver like 2 hours later. Well, the reality is for our disabled customers, Super Shuttle service still lives for them. They have to book it in advance. It's inflexible. The pickup window, it's like half an hour. It keeps you waiting, and even then, it might take you 2 hours to get where Uber could take you in say 20 minutes. So. A lot of it is we're still looking at. This was a paratransit peer review allegedly, and it seems to have turned into a target to access on demand. So we do need to keep holding RTD accountable for that. So, but it goes back to OS&S. So round 2. This is my one.
Ooh.
Oh yes, this one's good. So this is fantastic.
Get right.
RTD. This was fantastic. Just the contract that we absolutely hate, that is responsible for all these windows, dull bus and train interiors, RTD has decided to cancel. Now, I'm not totally aware of why, okay? I'm not totally aware, but all we know is the board's approved staff's request to cancel. They will, over the next couple of months, be unpicking, so it's going to take a little while. Obviously just doesn't want to, it'll be wound down. Unfortunately, there will be a new contract for advertising, so advertising this bid, but now is a great time to get in an RTD to make that new contract much more rider friendly. I think we're not against a bit of advertising where it is worth doing. But of course, this train is ridiculous. It's dark and gloomy. And that is. That's not even advertising. He's advertising the advertiser. So we've got sort of stuff like that going on. And so hopefully that will stop. Downtown Rail. It's back again. Okay, right. So they're going to do phase 3. Okay, because the order it's going to happen is 1, 3, 2, 4. Well, okay. Just in case. And it's Kalamath Crossing. Kalamath Crossing sits out there on by the Aurora campus. Okay, and the problem is it cuts all of downtown and the L line off. So that's the problem. It's a key kind of pinch point, capacity point in the system, which is probably why it's fallen into a state. Okay, there is no kind of easy way to do these sort of things. So the upshot is for the next service change period, which is going to start after next Saturday, we're going to have the D-line trains are going to run back into Union Station. Okay, there's diversion.
The C line is dead. Long live the C line.
The D line becomes the C line, but we can't really say that officially because admitting the C line has some use. And it might be popular. Yeah, obviously
But we have board allies who agree with us that
Yeah.
the C line should return, so we got to acknowledge that.
It'll be good for Broncos fans. I'm going to say, heading into full football season. The H line, we did sort of discuss this 2 months ago, is going to be a Florida to Southmore shuttle, and once again, the L line is discarded. news: the Accountability Committee
Sorry, the L loop is gone?
is not going to run.
Starting when?
That all starts on
10 days from now?
August 31st.
In the, permanently?
No,
No.
through November.
No, yeah, worry,
It's the
isn't it?
next
I
period
know.
of service changes.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, our blood would be at a lot higher
We'll talk
than
about
pressure
that.
if that was the case.
We'll talk about that a little later in the meeting. We'll come back to what's going up on Welton Street. Anyway, the Accountability Committee. So last year's big piece of RTD legislation, basically all the people who are wanting to have a big conversation about RTD's governance structure. What the deal done last summer was that they would bring back the Accountability Committee. That was something that first sat in 2021 at the behest of the Governor. There's the reports on the report. We have kind of been saying, can you not just start again? Can you kind of take the work you did and do another chapter? We'd rather not, be told time and time again that after frequency is a good idea. But the good news is, so that came out of the bill. It will shape, the conversation on RTD's governance structure is still technically open. But we've got some good news, okay? And congratulations to my co-chair. Some appointments have been made. James is on it. And including that, Matt Larson, who is a GDT friend of GDT, director, RTD director. And then also, and I believe that was the form what RTD chose to nominate their board chair.
Yes.
As well. So Julian Bouquet as well. So all these people, friends of GDT. This is part of it. There are other people involved. I've heard some more names, but the final announcement has been made. But the great thing is the classic thing, stacking this committee full of people who get transit, talk to us, really understand is exactly what we need to do. Okay.
So if you have opinions on things that you think could become legislation in terms of just structural reforms to RTD, please talk to us. We will totally hear you out.
Yep. So,
And
can you guess what this one is?
Alrighty. So, we have abolished parking minimums. Goodbye. I don't know which... I don't know if we're like the 6th city in America to do this. Lucia, you might know.
Something like
the
that.
first
Yeah.
10, right? Probably.
Yeah.
Within the first 10.
Yeah, we're ahead of the curve for sure. Not the first to do it.
Our size.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cities that have done it, however, we're one of the largest.
Okay.
Like, it's a short list of any city that's near our size.
Cool. But yeah, obviously reason for celebration. So I believe, Abe, did you already have the... Okay, yeah, I was going to say you could pitch it. But yeah, there was a party on Tuesday. I wasn't able to make it. I assume it was a lot of fun because Yemby threw it. But yeah, this is wonderful news. Long time coming.
All right. So another point of celebration. Congratulations to our friend Joel here. Where's Joel? There he is. So if you were back at our February meeting, I think? I think it was around February, yeah. Joel here presented a concept of kind of a last mile solution titled First Mile Free. It sounds like, and maybe if you want to come up for a second and just talk about this for maybe 1 minute, but my understanding is that there is a pilot. It's going to be 2 years. You want to tell people about how they can participate in it?
Yeah, so First Mile Free is no longer just a cheesy AI slide, it's reality. So again, the concept is if you ride an e-bike or an e-scooter to a transit stop, the cost of your ride is subsidized. So the first mile is free. It's going to be 2 stations, Decatur Federal, and then also the University of Denver station. And yeah, if you're at those stations, make sure to use it. It'll start in winter of 2026, so not too far out. And yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the first time a model like this has been tested. It's really a lot more efficient than shuttle services, not that shuttle services aren't needed in some instances, but those have a lot of overhead. It can cost over $100 to get one person to transit. This model can get people there for just $4. So fingers crossed that people actually use it.
Well, thank you for taking this on and making this your project. This is awesome.
Does anybody live near those two stations? Is there anybody here who might?
So we got
Just
three,
so,
four.
What was it? Federal Decatur and what was the other one?
University of Denver.
University of Denver. So two quite separate stations.
Yeah.
And we've got some people. So when this goes in, we can get people can.
That's a rare campus.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a few people who are going to road test this.
Yeah.
A bit of work and come back. Let me know how it works, how easy it is, and whether it's something that is.
Yeah, something that we can keep going.
Yeah.
So, yeah, congrats to Joel for that. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one's also mine. All right, so a step forward in terms of partnership between the state of Colorado and RTD is that back in June, we had a signing of the IGA, which I want to give it up for the board and RTD and the state for stepping up. This is not the final approval of funds, to clarify that. That is something that is going to await a little bit more details in terms of what the railroad is going to ask. This is a blended corridor, right? This is owned by a private railroad, and there will be terms that are going to need to be ironed out. So once those some of those details are shared with the RTD board, they will reconvene and they will actually vote on the final funding for this, which is something that I think across our coalition and especially in GDT is something that we view as one of the most important, if not the most important, projects from a capital expenditure standpoint to get right, given how much of RTD's credibility and just trust in the state to build transit, right? How much stuff needs to be, how much confidence needs to be restored. This is one of the crucial things to making that happen. So we will follow very, very carefully and we'll continue to encourage our board members to go as far as they can to being a yes, as long as they can be a yes.
I was going to say, you were out in July up near Longmont,
Yes.
spreading kind of the train.
Yes, yes.
We don't have a slide on this, but
Yes, no, I was a missionary. Yeah, no, I was a trained evangelist. Yeah.
Longmont is a city I don't think we have to worry about given we have
Yeah, no. So I was directed. I was invited by Director Banker, who co-hosted an event up in Longmont just to educate people on what the future of the corridor was going to look like. And I got to do the fun part. I came after Lisa Kaufman, who presented kind of the cold reality and the compromises and kind of the challenges we have for the next couple of years. I got to swoop in at the end and talk about, okay, well, when we get a permanent fleet, when we get the thing passed, when we get the budget, this is how cool it could be. And I got to, speak for about 35 minutes on that, and people loved it.
lots of pretty pictures. And
Lots of really pretty pictures that are only going to get prettier now that we have some more, which you're going to talk about in a second, actually. So I'm going to let. Here you are.
Right. Okay. Train porn time. This is it. This is.
Your discretion is advised.
Yes. This is the future of American intercity passenger rail. It is what we call an Aereo set. It is made by Siemens Mobility. The Germans probably had a hand in designing it, but they're assembled in Sacramento, so out in California. So they're American made by American compliant. Amtrak are using this to basically replace a lot of their single level cars. If you've ever travelled
pretty
up
much
to,
anything that's not a view lot.
yeah, anything that's not a Viewliner or a Superliner, yeah.
Yeah, so Amfleet's 1, 2, Amfleet 3, less about that.
Horizon.
And what's
that's
the
the
oldest
Horizon.
Amfleet in service?
1907. Well, if you include the cabs, it would be.
It is
Yeah.
Amtrak, yeah, those are old. Yeah,
It's pre-Am. They're still pre-Am.
That was Penn Central.
yeah.
So that's
well,
probably
no, it's
1970.
Pennsylvania,
So there's pre-1971 still stuff running
Yes.
around.
and they still have some
I mean,
baggage
that's
cars.
how badly this stuff is needed.
It's older than my dad.
Okay, but so the thing is, with any new type of train, the first ones are actually scheduled to go up to the Cascade service, which is that's the one that runs you from sort of Eugene to Portland to Seattle to Oregon.
We are planning a trip. May next year. Seattle.
Hopefully, you don't put this one off bridge like they
Okay.
did the last one.
And anyway, what was it doing? Well, the thing is any brand new train basically gets shipped down to Pueblo, where there is a full FRA test track, and basically that thing shakes it down, puts it through paces. They try and run them cold, hot, high speed, slow speed. They basically try to destroy them down there. So what was happening is that train was being transferred presumably from the factory in California through Denver, and it was going to hang out in Union Station while they
Yeah, for about 36 hours. It
presumably
hung
while we
out just
changed
right over there.
railroads. Yeah, well, they obviously Amtrak changed railroads or whatever, and it hung out. It was on display. And yeah, these are some of the pictures. Our guys did a great job, like basically unashamedly rail fanning it. So these are some of the pictures. It looks lovely, and this is at it, and then we'll give you an idea what the inside looks as well. Okay, so great pictures, really a first real glimpse of what, for example, a front range or a mountain rail train could actually look like. You know, this is a train that exists. It's not a pipe dream.
Yeah, I might actually change my desktop background with that. That bottom left one is so good.
Oh, you know, yeah.
Yeah, but I got to see this in person. I don't know who all got to see this when it was at Union Station. A couple of us. It was like stunning. Like it's like I know a lot of us have been on Amtrak, but the Cascades new livery here is just like
And I've
very
heard,
good.
though not confirmed, that the seats they have on these are the models they use on Via Rail, which are comfortable, not the ironing boards they're using on Amtrak Midwest.
Yeah. Yes, I think so. Well, I mean, you've got a mock up there.
So Bob Brewster can rest assured. More comfortable ride is coming.
All right.
God.
I'm going to apologise right now. The following slide is pretty childish, has a lot of innuendo. Are you ready?
I like that you can just see Joe's face smiling.
Hell yeah.
I mean,
that's the
that's
smear campaign.
yeah, that's the man. He's going to run for the RSD board, you know. So he's, that's what he's really like. I mean, get that man there, Joe. So anyway, there was a big installation on Colfax. A crowd of people turned out to view the massive installation on Colfax on June the 24th. It took a little while actually because the workers had some problems getting their bolts in the hole. It was about an hour that actually, where they were fiddling around and in there. But the installation was so big you could see it from blocks away. We're nearly done. Okay. And if you too are fans of big installations, the next one's on Tuesday, September the 2nd at Colfax in Colorado.
Can you breathe now?
Right, and coming to the end of the news, some about my Swiss summer, because as some of you know, I disappeared for 5 weeks to Europe. It was tempting, just to stay there.
Yeah,
maybe
wouldn't
good.
blame you.
One of the things we went to was the women's Euro soccer tournament. Who's aware of which big soccer tournament's coming to USA next year?
FIFA.
The big one, organised by FIFA. The World Cup. So this is kind of this is the women's competition. It actually is only just the Europe continent, so it's basically all the good teams except the USA and Brazil and Japan. Okay, so pretty much most of where the women's game. It has been growing. It's held every 4 years. Every tournament
Doesn't
they
Mexico have a good team?
not for women, no,
Oh.
not particularly. Anyway, so here's one of the things. Now, what the Swiss did is obviously said you can use the train to run around the venues, okay? I'd like to point out that in Europe, special doesn't have the connotations. So you can put that up on the board and it is really just a special train. Okay, so looking at that. This is what they did to some of the trains to encourage people.
Very cute.
Basically what it was is if you bought a match ticket, okay, you got free public transit from anywhere in Switzerland to the game and back until 5 a.m. the following morning. Now, to just rock up at a Swiss railway station and travel, say, from Geneva to Zurich, that's $100 and something. And when these match tickets cost about $30, it was a hell of a deal, okay, to just be able to ride any train, okay? So, of course, lots of people took advantage of this. The other thing they did is they ran a lot of extra trains. The games were in the evening, so you could get back. I think the idea was if you stayed in Zurich, you could just stay there. You'd always get home. That's the Swiss actually on that train. They'd just been knocked out, by the way. Okay. And this is a bit of the advice. I know it's a bit small, okay, but it talks about train shuttles, S-Bahns, after the match plan, extra trains. If in soccer it goes to extra time, because there are some games they don't like time, they'd hold the trains, okay. But I want you to read this bit here, yes? Do not drive to the stadium as the car parks, it's parking lots, okay, by the stadium will not be available and roads around the stadium will be closed as of And I think for that game, that was about 5 hours in advance. That's obviously, it's in military time. If you must drive, park and ride, okay? Which, of course, there were, and I think conveniently there were none, and I didn't tell you. So, very, very clearly, don't drive, no parking minimums, not happening, okay? Anyway, I was following England, okay, and just so you know, basically because of this lady here, Chloe Kelly, we won. Okay, and basically, so she was so good, they put her on the side of a light rail vehicle, which normally we have a view that we're obviously fully against this, but I guess if you scored the winning goal for your country, I might make an exception. There you go. Moving on to events. Keith.
They're giving us a break. No board meeting this month. Who here watched last month's meeting? Well, you had to.
Watch from the board.
So hang on, let's talk about our RT directors. We're always very, very pleased they're coming. We have Chris Nicholson here, he's on the board. Rep Aglieri, thank you always.
I will say, if anyone comes to a future meeting, you might encounter a new procedure. This is the first time I've ever had to take a ticket like I'm at a deli to give public comment, but given the number of people testifying, I understand it. Looking like it'll be a busy agenda next month because a lot of stuff from last month's meeting had to be pushed because of the elephant in the room, which was access arrive. So trying to remember all this stuff. There's GMCO short-term goals. That's a big one. So July should be important. Not September. Yeah, they're gone.
So
I wonder where they're off to.
Well, I mean, you don't begrudge them a holiday because they had 12k a year, which is pretty criminal.
Yeah, look at Mr. Moneybags over
Okay,
here.
legislator. Anyone a legislator? Okay, so we don't sort of begrudge, but we did ask ChatGPT to show us what the RTD board on holiday would look like. Would you like to see this?
No. No, it's not.
Not bad.
That's horrendous.
Stuff of nightmares. Let's move on. Emma.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are not all in artificially generated Tahiti. We are at a monthly meeting, and you should keep coming to these. They're at 6 p.m. on the third Thursday of the month, so it's really easy to just put it in your calendar. It's not going to change unless something really weird happens, like a holiday or something, and we'll let you know. We're going to get drinks at Terminal Bar after. That's just down at Union Station, inside of it, just the bar over there. And our next meeting is going to be 6 p.m. on Thursday, the 18th. Alrighty, some other meetings you should consider going to. FRPR has a virtual meeting. Next one's going to be Friday, August 22nd at 9 a.m. The Inc. Transportation Committee, our very own Joel Noble leads those. So that'll be 6 p.m. September 11th, Thursday. And then Denver City Council is every Monday at 5 p.m. A lot of fun. Stuff always happens there. Never a boring day. Highly recommend.
We are such a diplomatic group.
Yep.
Listen to the people.
Oh yeah, Denver City Council could be a reality show. Yeah, so I know a lot of friendly faces here were on the L line last year before RTD shut it down, and guess what? They're doing it again. So we're doing it again, and we are going to have a last night on the L line again this year. It's going to be shut down until November 27th, to answer your question from before, Lucia. And we're going to meet at 16th in California at 6:50 p.m., so a little bit before the train arrives, on Saturday, August 30th. There's going to be music, transit, friends, and we're going to get drinks after, so it should be a lot of fun. Hope to see you there.
I'll call up Steadieth in Downing, and then we'll ride the last train, and yeah, sometimes the operator lets us stay on.
Yep.
Bit, so, you will ride the last of the last train for a couple of months.
Yep. Alrighty. And then, so James did a little foreshadowing earlier about next year with our trip out to Seattle. But the biggest trip we're doing this year is we're actually planning a Grand Junction trip this fall. And the fun thing here is we can take Amtrak and we can also take busting, which is a lot cheaper. So for the train nerds with some money to spend, we'll have one group on Amtrak. And for people who, are a little more economically savvy, we'll have one group on busting.
And want to get there faster.
The busting will beat the Amtrak, which is very funny. So there'll be two groups. No pressure to go on either one. Just, choose your fighter. We're going to meet up with Noah Spawnable and the Friends of Grand Junction Union Depot. There's going to be hikes, food, and other fun. I really recommend coming out to this. And it's going to be 3 days, so it's Friday, October 24th through Sunday, October 26th. So for most of us, that means you'll need to take PTO off on that Friday, so that's 1 day. But, we're GDT. You can take 1 day of PTO for us. We're kind of important.
We're still working out which direction, because some folks may only take the train one direction.
Yep.
So we'll give you a little bit more details probably in the next couple of weeks. We'll have a little bit more information.
Yep, yeah, and feel free to do asymmetric if you want to, get to be on Amtrak out to Grand Junction, but you don't want to pay for it twice, because, it is a lot more than the busting. Totally makes sense. Take Amtrak out, take busting back, or vice versa.
Question.
Oh,
Yep.
With that, would there be, because I know that Amtrak does really good group discounts,
Mhm.
will there be a group to sort of plan out going together as a group to get those discounts?
If there is any group discounts, whether it's for Amtrak or the hotels or anything else, we will do our best to make sure that the membership is invited to that, and we can save you any money we can. So if that's an option, then totally.
the thing that we'll need first is a head count. So yeah, if we apply for something like that, if we reach out to Amtrak, we'll just need to know ballpark how many people we're going to have in
Yep.
order to get that. So
Yep. And this is a ways out. I mean, this is end of October, so you've got 2 months to plan, take time off work. So yeah, hope to see you all there. Yeah, and I'm actually going to invite our very own Lauren Hansen up to talk about a little collab that we're doing with Colorado History Rides. So do you want to just explain Colorado History Rides for people who haven't been on one?
Absolutely. So Colorado History Rides, we're a 501c3 nonprofit that does bike rides throughout the Denver metro area. We generally do rides on weeknights between about 5 to 6 miles per hour, a little bit longer on weekends. We're going to be doing a ride that is going to, and it looks like my head's cut off online, so you just gotta, there we go. All right, well.
It's a delay, so you'll see it.
All right, people on the internet, trust me that I do have a head, and you may see that head when we do. We're going to be doing a history ride on the 31st of August. We're going up to the B line Westminster station, which I'm pretty sure B stands for Bestminster, as we all know. There are no later stops beyond that. But we're going to be going and talking about the history of Westminster, everything from its early founding and the fact that it once had the Princeton of the West, all the way to the major companies that make Westminster its home. The ride itself will start at, and there's my head, at 11:30 a.m. From the very conveniently addressed 6945 Westminster Station Drive. So if you do want to come up from Denver, there's a train that does leave Union Station that will get you up to the ride area. If you do want to support us, History Rides, we're a 501c3 nonprofit. We have a Venmo that you can donate on there, and otherwise you're not obligated to give. We have cool stickers that you can see the logo over right by the GDT stickers, and we also have extra Pride stickers. So thank you all for inviting me up, and back to you.
Thanks, Lauren. Yeah, so again, I will be on that B line, and so if you want to take the train up with me from Union Station, just be there at 10:55, and then we'll get there in time for the 11:30 ride, maybe 6 minutes early, something like that. So yeah, and fair warning, this is the morning after the last L. We do not plan when RTD shuts down lines, so we did our best. But I'm gonna do both, so why not? Cool, more fun stuff. Okay, for real this time, we're trying to do a pool party. And each time we keep trying to do it, the rain comes in and we have to cancel it, and it's really sad, but we're going to keep trying. So the new tentative date is September 4th at 6:15. It's going to be here on the 13th floor of Cadence. And we will keep you updated on Slack in case weather changes, but for now, it's looking like we should be able to. But it's Denver, so like I'm not sure whether that far out is reliable, so we'll see. We'll keep you posted. But tentatively, it'll be here, there'll be food, there'll be fun. Good end of our summer little party.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Emma. So over the last couple of months, while we did not have a meeting in July, we were hard at work meeting with every single group we could possibly get to talk to us about buses in downtown Denver. The big ones would be the Downtown Denver Partnership, Dr. Cog, and all of our partners at the Denver Streets Congress. We've got signatures now from a lot of our key allies, especially those who are in the room, acknowledging YIMBY Denver, Denver Bicycle Lobby, as well as Pedestrian Dignity. So a huge thank you to all of our partners in helping get this on the radar for RTD and for Dottie. We're expecting a few more signatures to come in next week, since part of this was also just getting feedback, making sure that we were acknowledging the really important work that's been done by a lot of our partners over the last couple of years. And this is just a testament to the work of a lot of people in this room, right, is that we've been working on this for the last 2 years, right, talking to people, talking to RTD folks, trying to sharpen this to be the strongest kind of shot in the arm in terms of adrenaline, in terms of getting our downtown bus network to look like the potential that we know it has, with the the two really strong hubs that we have, the grid design of downtown, even though there are one-way streets, which I know are very controversial, right, in our circles, to kind of use these one-way streets for good. For lack of a more sophisticated term. So more to come on this. We're going to come back to buses a little bit later tonight, but just wanted to give you guys an update that this is moving forward. L-line. Okay, you gave me this one. So, right, this is something that's been really sensitive, right, is that there are people that we have a lot of respect for who feel very differently about the future of Welton. But us as the transit group, right, we've been putting together a presentation that says, we agree. We agree that the L-line as it's operated today is not useful, but we think the infrastructure that it operates on top of could provide value. And critically, the thing that we see as being absent from a lot of the civic plans for the Welton corridor is a regional transit connection that is going to connect the neighborhood, not just to downtown Denver, as it already is, by 2 other bus routes that do exactly the same thing as the L, right? But also other neighborhoods on the west side, the airport, neighborhoods on the east, right? Making sure that Welton is connected. So we are going to be publishing a presentation on that for all of you. We've gotten a lot of great feedback from this group and others, and we're going to be we're still very much in listening mode for the people who are very skeptical of the L, because it has been about 8 years since it was a regional corridor, when it used to run as part of the D corridor. So if you know people on Welton Street, if you know people who are passionate or who are talking about this, please try to connect us with them, because we really would like to have some sincere conversations that try to meet people where they're at with this, because it is a very sensitive issue that a lot of people are very passionate about. So. And now I'm going to hand off the mic, I think, to Cody and Sagapal here, because the bus plan ambitions have grown considerably since this project started. Would you like to start, Sagapal?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, well, I would love to talk about trains like the next guy, but I think the reality is, in the US, the backbone of transit systems are the bus. And we've made great strides with the downtown bus plan, and James will give a quick overview of what we've accomplished. But we're GDT, we're ambitious, and we're going to take things a step further and actually talk about the Metro Denver bus plan. And we have some grand ambitions, and we would love to get everyone's thoughts in the room and get more hands on deck here. So before getting too ahead of myself, let's pause and talk about what we're going to talk about today. So, yeah, kind of 4 things. Where we began, the downtown bus plan, what we want to accomplish, so, some of our goals, the data, where we want to go from here. So what is the actual output? What are we going to build? And lastly, how you can be a bus plan warrior. Because, this is something that I think everyone here might have some cool insights on. So, this is not meant to be a closed door. You need to be someone with a transportation engineering background to contribute to. Like, anyone who rides a bus, knows someone who rides a bus, has an opinion, and that opinion matters. And yeah, so let's get right into it. What did James? Yeah, James. Back to James to talk about where things began.
Would you guys like our seats? Would you guys want to do here and I'll roam?
Sure.
All right. So I think most of the folks in this room, you've been to a GDT meeting before, you've seen what we're talking about here. So to give all the respect to service planning and scheduling, right, there is no part of transit planning that is easy, right? It's always more complicated than just looking at a map, looking at bus lines on a map, and kind of trying to say, could this be straighter? Could it be faster, right? There's all sorts of things that go into making a bus route viable. But what we were starting with 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, was just acknowledging that RTD was facing a lot of challenges, right? Is that there were budget issues, there were incomplete corridors, particularly for rail. So the idea if buses are the pieces of the puzzle that are more flexible, that can be changed more quickly, what could we do with basically kind of two assumptions, right? The first assumption is that money doesn't fall from the sky, right? That we don't magically get a massively bigger budget.
I'll touch on this more later because it's been
right.
constant problem.
And then number two, right, was the operator shortage. At the time, right, RTD had a considerable operator shortage in its bus unit, which, to their credit, right, RTD's made a lot of progress in terms of their hiring on the bus side, right? But saying, we have all the service in downtown, right? How can we make just downtown, right, this area, this densest node of service, work really, really, really well? And the idea was, let's pull some best practices from what we see working exceptionally well in other cities. So looking at places like Houston, Seattle, Minneapolis, cities that have modernized their bus systems in the last 15 to 20 years, right? Basically taking the last mile of service into and out of downtown and creating something that's very predictable. And part of that is using something called a trunk, right? A trunk is where you consolidate lots of bus service all across a very specific set of streets. Not only does this create a lot of high frequency, which is convenient, but it also just makes the map a lot easier to understand. So that's a whole other presentation. Most of you have seen that. But starting with, we've got a lot of service, but we were at the time kind of agnostic, or we didn't really get into the nitty-gritty about what the bus did outside of downtown, right? So starting with lots of service operating into and out of downtown, making downtown easy to understand, also improving a lot of the accessibility issues that we know with the XYZ system. For those of you who don't know, a 20-second version of this is that RTD has a very, very obsolete, outmoded, and non-branded way of organizing bus stops in downtown. People don't understand it, right? Us using this as an opportunity to use Dottie investment, lower the amount of bus stops in total that Dottie was responsible for maintaining in downtown, consolidating service on a set of streets, right, and making this be the network to where people don't need to memorize what buses do. If you want to go north, right, you're going either on 15th Street for local service, you're going on 18th Street for express. If you're going south, 17th Street, boom, that's it. You don't need to memorize exactly where all the different buses go. So starting with this, but as more people came aboard on this project who had a lot of other abilities in terms of planning, in terms of also just statistics and just really, really evolved sense of network understanding, there was an opportunity to take this way further. And the people I'm going to hand this off to have taken this much, much, much further. So back to you, Cycle.
Thank you very much. So, as I thought about the downtown bus plan, which, before we continue, if you haven't read it, go to the GDT website, check it out. It is some really cool stuff, and a lot of good thinking has gone into that. But as I think about where we began, what is that high-level synthesis? The downtown bus plan has 4 key elements. So first, bus trunks, which it increases frequency by overlapping routes. The second thing is transit squares. So it talks about simplifying connections and making sure people can connect faster and more conveniently. The next thing is the marketplace circulator. So this is like, there's an underserved route right now, and this identifies it and solves that hole. And lastly, infrastructure improvements, right? So the transit squares or like improved amenities on bus stops, like these are like physical changes to the built environment that can enhance the user experience. So these 4 things these four key principles are what we took to, we kind of supersized it in the Metro Denver bus plan. But before we actually talk about routes or infrastructure, we had three key goals. Ridership recovery, so as we saw earlier, we're not doing too well when it comes to, how many people use the system. And we want to use this, we want a guiding principle of the work we do to be, we're going to meaningfully grow ridership while also acknowledging that there are real budget realities and budget constraints. So how do we kind of meet in the middle there? The other thing is mode shift, right? So it's one thing to just assume like you create a bus system, people will come, but there are real challenges and real trade-offs around like how do we get people out of cars and into transit, the mode we want, right? And then lastly, how do we do this in a way that is driven and informed by data in a proactive way rather than just saying, oh, there's a gap here, let's fill that gap. This is a system-wide realignment. That informs four key deliverables. So the first deliverable here is the proposed bus route network. So this is going to be presentation and GIS map with every bus route in Denver. It's 138 routes, right?
It depends how you count a route. Or is the 15 4 routes? Make that case.
Okay, well, many over 100 routes. How about that?
Yeah, it's
okay.
A lot.
A lot of routes.
Too many.
So as you can see, it's pretty big in scope. Like this, I would argue, is one of GDT's largest undertakings right now. So again, pitch for how y'all can get involved. Beyond the route and changing lines on a map, we're talking about what are the complementary upgrades to the system, like which bus stops need to be made nicer. What does that mean? Like what is a nice bus stop to you? Is it benches? Is it shade? Is it having trees? Is it having digital displays? We want to talk about that. Next thing is, we have a ton of transit nerds in this room, but if we were going to talk about this to the media, to someone who doesn't really care or doesn't think about transit, like, what's that executive summary look like? And lastly, coming back to that data-driven decision process, we want to ensure that we give RTD a roadmap of saying, if you want to execute changes to bus routes in the future, we would expect a robust planning toolkit, and that is a detailed service change process. So taking a step back, like I flagged in the first goal, right? Like we live in a resource-constrained environment. I think there are a lot of numbers on this slide. The biggest takeaway here is, for every weekday, RTD has about 6,000, so 5,959 hours that they can schedule. So this is like, you'll have 5,959 hours where you have a bus, or you have buses driving around picking up passengers. We can go into the details of the math for the nerds who are interested, but the down arrow here is that's not a lot. It's less than what we had in May 2019, and we do live in a resource-constrained environment. So given this scenario, how do we go about changing things?
We do have a little more than that. I will point out a lot of our assumptions on resources it's kind of hard to we're kind of feeling in the dark about where we're going to land. We don't know where we're going to land, but the goal has been SOP resources plus a single-digit percentage more service.
Yeah.
Because there is some more service we could get because of oil and gas fee revenue that's going to start to come in. So we aren't shackling ourselves to it has to be exactly that, but if we can hit SOP plus 7, 8, 9%, that will be, I feel, within margin of error.
Right. I think you make a great point there. It's just because we're resource constrained doesn't mean we shouldn't have ambitions, but we also can't be starting from a pie in the sky, like let's make every route 15 minutes. No offense to anyone.
I will say every time I show someone, and I'm saying this now because I'm sure I'll have individual conversations with a bunch of you later, every time I show someone the bus plan, they're like, why don't you make route X 10 minutes? And my response has gotten very blunt over time, which is, find me a route to cut.
Yep.
Find me a specific place to cut before you start talking about giving more.
Right. So again, we're not going to get into the specifics here, but if this is something that excites you, please come chat with myself, with Cody, with Keith, with Maitri,
Joe.
with Joe. Yeah. But as we keep flying through this, coming back, remember those 4 elements I talked about? Bus trunks, connections, serving underserved routes, infrastructure improvements. Like those are the core tenets of the downtown bus plan. We're taking this methodology and supersizing it. We want bus trunks across key routes in the outside of downtown, in the whole city. We want to ensure that there are fast, convenient connections in places even outside of downtown, right? Like you don't need to come into downtown to have a good connection. There are a ton of corridors that are underserved right now, whether they're key destinations, new density, and we want to connect those better. And lastly, there is a ton of scope to make the whole experience better by changing the built environment, whether that's transit signal priority, whether that's bus lanes, so there's a ton we can do here.
Some of it, though, is not nearly as sexy as making something better, but allowing stuff to exist. One of the layers, and I know we're going to get into specific things we analyze when we design a route, is RTD does not like unprotected lefts.
Yeah.
There are cases it does them, but it really hates them. So sometimes to allow a route, we need a stop sign. And it can be that simple.
Some of the data that mostly like Joe and Keith and Slagwall have been kind of incorporating into so the maps that we've been putting together, we've been working with Felt. The ones that we have so far are highlighted here in green, including like residential densities. TOD is really good for bus service. In-service hours, like how much resource do we have to work with? And like a really key one is ridership by stop. You can kind of see where sometimes a bus will just kind of fly through an area and there's nothing there because it's just much.
If you want a concrete example, increasing service between Cherry Creek and University of Denver Station, whereas if you look at the number of people getting on the bus at those stops between there, it looks really low. So you're like, we should turn down the service a bit. But actually, no, a lot of people are on the bus there. They're just going through. They aren't stopping. But the ridership is still high in that section.
And then we have certain areas where we still haven't gotten the data. Commercial density is a really good one. We want to see where people go to work. Oh, you do?
Yeah,
well,
I said that to Joe.
Oh.
Yeah, Joe's,
Well,
I think he's putting it in the
okay.
felt map.
There we go.
Yeah. Some other good ones would be traffic counts, like especially on the bigger corridors where people are just driving. Like where are they driving from and to? And like then we can kind of see where we can also maybe help out and reduce vehicle miles traveled by increasing bus service. Like walk shed around stations. Like how easy is it to actually get to that station? Sometimes it may be very close to a station, but then you have to walk around a neighborhood because there's no clear path.
7 and 8 mentioned. They run sometimes within a couple 100 yards of each other, and there's something called Interstate 25 in between them. So,
And then if we want to bring people in to transit, like Joel is helping out, the multimodal links are really a great way to get people onto transit.
And
if I may,
sorry. Before we jump to the next slide, I think one really key caveat here is there's a ton of key data out there, and one of the activities we're going to do is talking about what data we could also use. But I guess the main thing here is we want to get like an 80% answer of this is the right route network in the quickest way possible. So that's kind of the balance with data, but there's a ton of data that's not mentioned here that we could also include. The question is, how do we balance time to output with the robustness of the data?
If you don't mind, I could do a lightning round of, there's like maybe 20 or 30, I can't even remember them, but there's a lot of things that are like used in a very specific case. So, So we have, it's not really data because it's on case by case, but there's looking at street view. There is measuring distance between crosswalks. There is looking at the speed limits on each of those streets. We don't want fast streets that are going to mow people down, but the faster traffic moves, the faster the bus moves. Key points, we have to be very discriminating about what we count as a grocery store. Trader Joe's, love it, but it does not count in our metrics. Because you can't get everything you need. Like, it's nice, like you can, and you find a meal you can make with just Trader Joe's stuff, and then they discontinue one of the items. So Save-A-Lot and King Soopers are the big ones we need. We do have household income. A lot of it is road geometry, and then there is also municipality, right? Where if you run a bus route through a certain area, you have to look at, okay, who's responsible for this? Okay, it's Highlands Ranch. Are they actually going to take care of this? No. High schools and middle schools, where high schools are targets and middle schools are tiebreakers. So far, there's nowhere where we specifically divert a route to serve a middle school, but there are a couple places where there are 2 routes, all else is equal, and a middle school was a tiebreaker.
Is this a data report?
With the high schools,
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, that's in
writing the 11 to south. I don't know if this is. I'm probably going to say something totally different and disappoint you right now.
No, I know it's going to be different soon.
The traffic on south, I have been consistently late because, like, the schedule says that the bus will get to it's about 1600 block Louisiana, I think.
Yeah, they don't factor in peak events like that in the schedule.
I think it's 8:10, and I consistently get there 8:25, and so it runs half hourly, and I cannot get to school at a reasonable time, and so that is, especially with something like a high school that generates a lot of traffic, because
You want to get close but not too close. Yeah, we're doing that at Manuel High School.
All right.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm glad you brought it up, because one thing that is actually data is collection areas for high school and school district, because even if a high school is not a circle, you can't draw a radius, say kids are coming from here to there. Often high school is serving a collection area that it's on the side of. You have to factor that in.
Now we're going to take a quick look at an example of one of the changes that we've kind of looked at. This is not...
Oh, the nightmare intersection.
It's not to say, like, this is the final route. It's just kind of go through our thought process and, like, sort of the data that we're trying to include in all this. Psychobol was talking earlier about making those trunks. By changing the destination of the 48 from Civic Center to over to Decatur Federal, it helps build up the frequency along the Market Blake trunk. So you get more movement essentially from Rhino over to the west side. That frequency obviously is going to allow people to make that connection a lot easier than it is currently. You have pretty much the 15L and the 1. Anything else?
I'll just say, you guys can do your own homework to figure out why it's the intersection from hell, but just go into Google Street View and look at this. It looks like a 4-way intersection. That's actually a 7-way intersection in disguise.
And then past just building up those trunks, that frequency, we also want to make better connections. Like, one thing we would be looking at is, one, Federal is slated to become a BRT. Like, how do we get people from over in, like, Commerce City? How do they get over to Federal BRT and the connection node that is Federal Decatur? Like, that area is completely ripe for development, for transit. Yeah.
You also, again, it's just one block. There's a lot of changes that are just one block.
And, like, if anyone actually needed, like, it's kind of hard just to see this route by itself. You have to start looking at the whole tapestry of routes, and it would essentially be intersecting with the other trunk downtown. So even if you wanted to get to Civic Center, you could just pretty much step off a bus and ride on to another one.
Any bus.
Yeah. Connections are not bad if they're close in time and distance. So that's
Especially when you only got to wait like
yeah.
45 seconds
Yeah.
for your connection to Civic Center.
Yeah. So like, what more can we do with the resources that we have? In terms of development, like, what sort of growth have these corridors seen? I don't think many people 15 years ago would have imagined what. What's the?
Rhino, you mean?
No,
Rhino generally?
Well, Rhino, yes, but also along Brighton. Like, that used to just be a bunch of warehouses. There was no sidewalks at all. Now there's tons of people living there. There's new restaurants, all sorts of opportunities for people. We also, like, when looking at this, you're like, what is going in right here? That's essentially the Ballerina in development. So we can aim ahead of where the development is going to be, because we know, like, a bunch of people are going to be living here in the not too distant future. So they're going to need better service along this corridor as well.
As you think about that, this one route is going to serve all the development happening at Denargo Market, which is huge, all the development at the Ballerina redevelopment. So that's essentially a shed, like a population shed of about 40,000 if everything gets built out the way it's supposed to. So, yeah, proactive design.
And then in terms of the built environment and the infrastructure, I don't know if anyone's ever been over to Decatur Federal, but it's a nightmare going through a little loop that essentially brings you back to the same spot and it takes forever.
I was going to ask about something.
We do have a solution for that.
So what?
16L. Because sometimes it adds 20 minutes just to go.
Yeah.
A real pro gamer move is to transfer from your bus to the bus in front of you.
Yeah, I've seen that happen.
Disabled and elderly, and there's affordable housing open there, and it's a nightmare for the bus riders to try to get all the people with the chairs on. It's very
But this is more just indicative of sort of the push and pull that we see with all, like, changing all these routes. Like, do people need to, like, what sort of access do we want to give people to Ballerina? Like, how important is that? Is Decatur Federal a better transfer point than sending people to Civic Center? It's just the kind of the questions that we ask going into this. It's not a perfect system, and we're trying to get all the data that we can to support these decisions, but it's...
At the end of the day, it will be data informed. Every decision we make, we will have a thing to point to, but it's not going to be an algorithmic machine that you just plug things into and it spits out routes. Because there are value judgments that have to be made with every single turn. Yeah, Jackson?
I just wanted to add a point about that loop at Decatur Federal. There was 6 buses, I counted them, lining up to go south on Decatur just to loop around as it came
It's
out
bad.
the line of day.
Yeah, not to mention
It's
that they also,
absurd.
not to mention they also get blocked by the W occasionally because they can't.
Yeah, 2 of them were blocked by the W's. It's like,
All this to say, these route conversations are what, we're going to be doing. But to inform these route conversations, we have to really go back to first principles and say, what is the data? What is the methodology? Because everyone who's ridden a bus will give you 10 suggestions of how to change the bus route. We need to go to RTD and back every change we make.
And there will be a lot of backlash as well when it comes to any sort of alteration of routes. People don't like changes, especially when you mess with their bus route.
Yeah, if you don't like this 48 version, 49 doesn't even exist anymore in our plan. We took it out back. It's gone.
Yeah.
With the bus plan,
Yeah.
this is something I've been thinking about it like a lot with the bus plan. Is like with like the major changes to routes that we've seen in basically all over the country. There's a very long period of public engagement and like long section of the agency doing its own work. And like, can we expect in any way for RTD to look at this and say, okay, like, or even like anything similar to that? Because this is a major overhaul of the entire network, and to do that without a shred of like public engagement, without a shred of like that kind of thing feels.
You have to be very discerning with your public engagement.
Not to mention, the directors can also correct me if I'm wrong on this, but aren't you also coming up on a new bus network redesign.
They put out
Yeah.
the request for bids for the guys.
Yeah.
It's not anything. It's just seeing who's out there
Yeah.
right now.
We are going to be doing a new comprehensive operational analysis, which is basically top to bottom, rewrite the routes over the next 18 to 24 months.
So yeah, as much as we can preempt that process.
Yeah, we want to get.
To clarify, it could be a top to bottom consideration routes. Whenever RTD has done this for the last 30 years, it has not been that. So hopefully, with this group's energy in other direction, that it can be done.
Sorry. Oh no, sorry.
I had two questions relating to this because my understanding is that in order to accomplish this task, there are kind of two core objectives. Number one, we need to have a majority on the board, which we're working on building out our slate right now to accomplish that task. And number two is we need city councils generally on board. Is that kind of a correct understanding?
It depends by the city, right? If Centennial City Council doesn't like it too bad, there's only 3 routes there, but we do need Denver. We need them. We need Aurora. We probably need Commerce City.
And just having public support, like it seems like people that live along these routes, like you have to go to them like, yeah, we're going to change your route a little bit, but here's what we're trying to do with that.
And
this is something we'll be going into in a minute with a little exercise we have. But.
Yeah.
RTD fundamentally has the ability to run buses where we want, and my understanding is can put up poles to facilitate that. But to do more than that, to put up shelters, to integrate.
Yeah, it's the city. Yeah. So we have a running tally of all infrastructure changes that are needed for this, and usually it's just a stop sign.
One of the things that I was wondering with the downtown bus plan is it's supposed to make the bus routes more simple, but I don't get on buses if I don't, because like my work is by Union Station, and I sometimes take the 15, and I was at the stop and a 15 pulled in and a 15L pulled in, and I'm like, well, 15L is limited. I'm sure it gets to Union Station faster, and then I was in Aurora, and I'm like, well, I have to walk from here to Union Station.
No, if a route so far, and this is just our internal way of keeping track of it because we aren't too worried about like branding right now, but if a route is substantially different, it has a different number. We don't have letter suffixes anymore, right? If like I am currently thinking of maybe even breaking off part of the 15 and making a 13, right? If you don't share either terminus, even if you share a section of the route, you really can't be called the same route. And in a lot of RTD plans, they have the 11 west and the 11 east. No, we're doing the 11 and the 14 because simple.
In the interest of time, we'll take one more question if anyone who hasn't spoken wants to.
Yeah. I just want to add, thank you for your work. I'm curious, correct me if my numbers are wrong here, but it's been 24 months or so since RTD opened up free transit for anyone under 19. It's been 8 months since the new board came into place. We are down 6% ridership year over year since last year. What's the problem? Is RTD in a death spiral?
The way we see it is the bus system network, which is kind of the backbone of the whole system, and that needs to feed into the rail. It has not been really looked at since the 1980s, and the growth patterns in Denver have changed since then. Like where people go to jobs, where people live.
There are whole neighborhoods like Central Park that when the last time there was a real, not a SOP, we're going to fiddle around the edges, but like a real redesign of the network, that was a runway. That was Stapleton Airport. And right now there's a giant hole in the network where there's now a neighborhood, and in the last 40 years, with one weird temporary exception, there isn't a route going through it.
Right. And I think just to wrap things up there, one key thing is ridership patterns continue to change, and we see even in this data, right? Like, if you compare on the very left, weekday ridership in 2025, like the number of in-service hours, it is way below what we were doing in 2019. But if you look at weekend hours, so on Saturday and Sunday, we're actually above where we were in 2019.
This is a good trend.
Yeah, which just shows like, you know, RTD has to work around changing commuting patterns, and yeah, there are going to be a lot of like different interests, different destinations, like new job centers, like the tech center has grown a ton, downtown ridership has changed, so there's a lot of moving pieces to it.
But critically with this, like, because you were talking about just the year-over-year number, right? Is that what we're talking about is catching up, right? And a modernized bus system is something that could really help grow ridership network-wide over the long term, right? Building a transit culture is a huge part of what this project is all about. But just on a year-over-year basis, we know it's wrong, right? The light rail system has not worked for 3 years. Right? This is a network, right? People who used to ride the E or the D that would transfer to the A, right? A lot of people have left the system and are not coming back, or at least haven't been replaced with new riders. So to us, right, when we look at the numbers, and this is a lot earlier in the presentation, but if you look at the ridership declines, the light rail is leading the decline on a year-over-year basis in percentage and numeral terms, right? And it's not operating as a network. So what we're trying to do right here is that if buses and bus positioning is a piece of the puzzle, right? Trying to get this piece right so that when the rail is reliable again, and it must become reliable again, right? Even if the rail is the primary thing poisoning ridership on a year-over-year basis, right? We've got a plan to get the system to a system-wide growth trajectory, if that answers your question.
So you're saying it's a management issue, not a cultural issue?
GDT has been consistent, I think, for the last year that we believe that RTD has botched the state of good repair program. That they basically took an approach that almost it was the approach that was maximally disruptive to the rider experience by choosing and not even giving the board a choice. So as far as we know, the board was never presented with alternatives that would have kept work being done overnight, that would have paid a contractor with a scope that would have required the contractor to remove their equipment from the tracks during the daytime, which was part of what exacerbated these issues. So yeah, I mean, we profoundly are absolutely dissatisfied with the way that the State of Good Repair program has been done. That does not mean that we disagree that the work was necessary. We 100% believe that the work was necessary. We are profoundly disappointed with the way it was executed. Because there were RTD staff who were out there who were, you know, insufficient in number, doing God's work, right, trying to put the system back online. So.
Okay, Chris, you have 30 seconds, and then we do need to get to this activity.
Yeah.
Just as a little bit of context to those numbers, ridership on the Flatiron Flyer is up 5% year over year. Ridership on the B line, the G line, and the N line are all up. The B and the G are up by about 5%. And ridership on the fixed rail bus network is down 2.5%. Yeah, the light rail took a dump in the street, but I think it's worth recognizing that when you look at the broader picture of the network, it's not nearly as dire as maybe some people would like to conclude. Thank you.
So, Freight Director, to clarify what you're actually talking about, if you actually look at it on a trailing 12-month basis where you get a full year of data, the commuter rail is also down, right? So it's not just that it's just the light rail. No, we are seeing patterns that were developing across the network where people would transfer, they would do regional trips, collapsing. So it actually is a problem. There are a couple bright spots. The Flatiron Flyer is crushing it, and we love it.
So
but
I'm talking year to date in 2025.
Yeah, well, on a year, yeah. So, but having a longer period of time, right? Because we have to focus on what are the patterns, right? Where are people, right, who used to be able to rely on the network, who are leaving the system? Why are they leaving the system? So this is like a really serious problem that we can't just dismiss as, oh, well, it's kind of bad here. No. The problem that started on the light rail in terms of people leaving the network is across the system. And we can see it in the data, but I'll let you conclude, because we got to move on to your...
Yes, we got to move on to this activity. There's a saying, right? There are three types of lies: lies, damned lies, and statistics. All that to say, like, it's a nuanced picture, right? There is no, like, you know, data can tell different stories, and there are like bright spots in the system, and there are like sour spots. But we have to consider the network as a whole and how to change things. But on that point, like we have an activity because we've talked at you guys a ton. So there are 4 groups, and we want to have this reflection session. So based off of like which of these 4 questions interests you, so just arrange yourselves. Group 1 there, group 2 here, group 3, group 4. So group 1 is all about the bus routes. What is the data? What goes into like the geometry? Group 2 is like if you care about bus stops, bus infrastructure. How do we make the actual built environment of the stops feel better? Go to group 2. Group 3 is like, what other policy changes do we want to pass to make the bus plan successful? And then group 4 is like, if you're an advocate, if you believe that we need to build a bigger tent, how do we get more people excited about this? And I have some reflection questions and sticky notes here. So if everyone can break themselves out into these different groups, group 1 over there, group 2, group 3, group 4. I'll give you 2 minutes. Let's go. You guys, group 1 over here?
Want to take a card?
Yeah. Yeah, do you want to facilitate this group?
Yeah.
Yes, sure. Is it you guys ones who care about bus stops and bus stops, better infrastructure? Right? I'll give this to you. And all right, perfect. I'll come and join you guys in a sec.
Do we want to give them cards to write on?
The sticky notes over there. Yes. All right. This is group 3. Policies, right? Here are the reflection questions. Group 4 is in that corner there.
Joining us in the propaganda department.
Here are some reflection questions for you all.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Here are some sticky notes. Write some ideas. Just one of those, sorry. Here are some sticky notes. Write your ideas. And yes, here's some sticky notes. Write your ideas on this. We're going to stick it up on the windows.
Yeah, I mean, building trends.
All right. Yes.
I'll do the tape if you want. It's just it'll be hard to read if I do a picture mosaic if it's on the little.
Oh, okay. Sure.
So if you want, and I'll see if ones if people want. It'll be better as a museum.
Okay. Yeah. Group 1. Where did group 1 go? Yeah, group 1. Group 1 over there with Cody. Let's use these instead. And we need markers, right?
Yeah.
That's great.
Oh, so that's why we're now.
Can I steal one marker?
These were the cards.
There you go, twice. There you go. Excuse me. Let's use these instead of the sticky notes.
I think so.
You have more markers?
You need more? I can lend you a couple. Alright, so
Friends?
One of the top issues or barriers to using the bus today, one of the things that's more I've been telling you so much about this for so many years. I know how that is. Just coming back from the volunteers over every day. And then I can take the bus, take an hour, or I can take an Uber every day.
You have a laptop, right? Yes. Can you look the map?
Yep.
You can have a screen to look at.
So, yeah, I realized I got that by very process. So we can skip a lot of stops.
I'm gonna keep this laptop safe.
And then they were like,
Every day. When someone says, hey, we're having a meeting, so, you have to generate votes, sell it, that's just like,
oh, yes, that is,
and I don't like it because I think places should be open, like everybody have an address for those that I think that
I've never had any situation with a bus or train where I feel
But I think it really varies by the route. Like certain routes, it's like you would ride this every day. But then half the others, it's like I feel like I'm rolling a 20-sided dice.
Actually, the only time when I felt my safety at risk was when I've been on that 205. One of the bus drivers slams the brakes. I have been thrown out of the seat. I have found myself on the floor of that bus several times, and one time my laptop was broken.
Well, I wonder what the Venn diagram of like how much ridership a certain route has versus how many safety concerns are reported on that route. Because there's definitely consideration of like, yeah, if there's no one else on the bus but you and a teenager with headphones on, like that's a safe route. You're feeling safe. But also if it's crowded with a bunch of people and you can see all the different faces around you, that's another form of safety. So where there in the in-between do we find people feeling unsafe?
Well, I mean, it's an irony. It's like that tendency generally true, but there's weird exceptions. Like, I feel like the 15 is like the route I feel the most safe on. It's one of the business, right? It's
Right.
slammed all the time, but it's like, I get so much more sexual harassment on that. And like,
Yeah.
route and like the other ones, it's like, a lot of them are like sleep, right? Like the 6 to the 10 or a lot of these things are like other routes that are going to happen. It's this culture of just like
Focus the conversation a bit. Like, obviously, this group is all about like the physical changes we want to make. So, this could be like things like a lot of buses have camera trays. So that is this like are there like technologies you want to include or for trains like we talked about fare gates, but is there any like other technology or other changes to bus stops that we want?
On that note of safety, like there's cameras on the bus and you can't see the footage live real time, but I'm trying that. Where they have that, I feel like that really is safer. People are much less likely to do something bad if like they don't see themselves lost. Like the average very well on the bus doesn't even know they're being recorded. Like cameras on the bus, yeah, and they're not like we have people don't know that. It's like that's the same thing right now. It's just automatically you can go out. The one time upgrading the buses.
Teams, owners,
Broncos on Rockies ride, Red Rocks ride. Those are the top three you've got to
Fine
bring
if we
back.
run a bit faster.
But I'd love to double the frequency of ski standing and snow standing.
This is it. This is all for us. This is for the movement. This is for the cause. We'll stay up a little late for the cause.
Guys, we're gonna reconvene in 5 minutes. Pick
So many things.
Pick one person from your group to present out your key ideas. Someone ideally who is not a big presenter, or a new speaker, right? Sorry to interrupt you. We're gonna wrap up in 5 minutes. As part of this process, pick one person to present the key ideas that you've jotted down. Team, sorry to interrupt. Take another 5 minutes, answer any remaining questions, and then pick one person from your group who hasn't spoken up today to come up and speak and talk about the ideas you have.
All right. So this last question. I guess it would be like how to get your family to affordably.
Question.
I guess right is the idea is that you can participate in these have another one. Well, this is interesting. Have another one right now.
Don't stop at a 7 for the beer. Don't stop at 7. Yeah. Because like right now they stop.
The idea is by something that is really like tangible and so we can go socialize that. We're gonna have preliminary conversations with Dottie and like RTD folks, even earlier than that. But like, we want something to final by mid-year.
Yeah, I've been because I was when I was sitting in the city council, I was campaigning, I was chairing the plan. So we should have a white paper soon and kind of tap that out with all the issues, campaign, what could we for our city, and yeah, I'd be happy to help kind of be outreach with us.
Of course, yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, and you're on the Slack, right? Down, you should join the channel, which is the Ridership Growth Plan. That's where it is. Talk about stuff.
Ridership,
yes. All right, team. 2 minutes. Pick one speaker. Who is not a typical speaker. Don't pick James.
Yeah, don't pick me.
And you're gonna present your ideas.
Do I add the channel or do I? Is it a channel?
What should we be mindful of?
Ridership growth?
Yeah.
Mindful.
Thank you.
Then we can look through the pictures and sucks and I can.
There's very little shade, there's incredible noise, and frankly, the human element sometimes but I'm not really sure what can you actually do to make
But it shouldn't,
it
shouldn't be, but that's how it is.
One minute. 1 minute. We'll go 1 minute.
I think, also they say that we're blowing it, so. I've coffee in one.
Oh, I think I saw you.
Yeah, I just happened to be used to be on the school board.
Yeah, you gotta get more public to run chef.
something like that.
That's how we stand. So risk, impact.
Brought so much to the speech.
So, one thing I'm thinking, once we yeah, one thing I was thinking about, once we have something a bit more concretized, probably get this in front of you, Matt and Brett, as well as like the new board members. Who are, who's obviously part of the group, Jack, and Coleman, and is it Coleman?
Michael.
Michael, yeah. So yeah, get all of you all together, because I know it's like brainstorm ideas. Because obviously you're going to be our people advocating for the insight. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Somehow articulate. Is James's Rhino ride going to be part of this?
That is the market big circulator.
The one that takes you from. Actually, hold on 1 second.
We're gonna reconvene now. Right. Everyone, we're reconvening. Close up your conversations. Alright, wrap up your conversations. Stop writing, pen down. Alright, wrap up those conversations, team. Let's reconvene.
Always hurting.
Yeah. I wish this was actually a mic as opposed to like a microphone, as opposed to just like taking.
Ask the group to nominate spokesmen.
All right, can the spokespeople who have been nominated sit on the couch over there?
Email you or something, or send you something on Slack.
Okay.
You're logged on your computer.
My computer's right.
Who's controlling your computer? Somebody's going to be doing it.
You have the mic? I'm going to steal the mic and instruct the speakers. Alrighty. Are you three our wonderful speakers? Yeah. Amazing, amazing. Keep the mic right here for me. I'm going to hand the mic. Make sure if you're speaking, you need the mic, okay? Oh, she's running. She's running. Let me make sure. I'll do a quick text. We're good on sound.
Three
Good.
people up there. Who's missing?
Make sure.
We're using group 1.
Group 1, who's your speaker? Alright. Yep, until you're called up. When you're called up, make sure you. Yep. Right here.
Oh, Major, you're group 1.
Okay.
Great. So I'm going to stick for you on the wall, and you can read as I stick. So where's your first card? Card number 1. You have a.
These are vague.
These are your questions. Right? Okay.
Make sure when you are speaking, you have the mic right here.
Right, y'all, let's give our attention back to our lovely speakers. I'm gonna do something very. You can hear me clap once. You can hear me clap twice. All right, amazing. It feels like I'm in high school again. Amazing. So, which group do we want to go first? Do we want to be boring and go 1 through 4, or?
All right.
Wait, we should do it like order. Yeah, was it
Yeah.
3, 2, 1?
1, 2, 3, 4.
The order, the downtown reconstruction.
Yeah, let's do that.
Well, one goes first, so we did one
Okay.
first. So, okay, 3.
So yeah, you can if you want to read the questions too, you can.
So we focused on group 1 with what data we use to essentially do the network planning. And in terms of just flat out numbers, what we decided was origin destination pairs is really the best we've got. And we're going to have, we already have employment OD pairs from the census. And with tap to pay rolling out sometime this year, I believe. Chris? Very, very yes, understood. We will have a lot more of that. It will still be incomplete, but having that direct, where are people getting on, where are people getting off, what are the trips, which we don't have really right now, will be extremely helpful. And in terms of also balancing the network, you have these trade-offs of like frequent stopping and coverage routes, just like trying to work with all that. And so with stop spacings, it's a case by case basis. Different areas need different spacings. You can't just say quarter mile. But with coverage and network density, the real thing is, again, not just like a number, but the topology of the network. Trying to make it so you have these local routes feeding into, say, the BRT network, and making it so you have the last mile or second to last mile modes feeding into those faster express, BRT, rail. And then in terms of how do you measure the success? You've designed a network, and now what? How do you know if it's worked? And there are so many different metrics you could use, but really the only one that matters is ridership.
What about value to the community? Okay.
I think you measure that through ridership too.
In the interest of time, no backtrack.
But so if you're running low frequency service, you're running less useful service, that will show up in the ridership metrics. And of course, you can look at those other numbers to find out why is ridership low. But at the end of the day, if the ridership is bad, something is wrong. Whether that's the built environment or the bus service.
As Depeche Mode said, everything counts in large amounts, including bus riders.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, perfect. All right, thank you. All right, group 3. Let's try keep it to like 2 to 3 minutes so we can fly through these.
Sorry.
No. I think we covered it. About 3.
Our group looked at policy structure around the bus plan. And so the first question here is, should we consider additional policies or incentives to complement the bus plan? And the answer is yes. One of the things that we looked at is that event tickets around the area should come with RTD access. So for example, if you go to an event at the convention center, perhaps you can just show your event ticket to get on a bus to get there. And hear me out on this, to complement this, we need to run extra service for events and not cancel trips. That would be fantastic. Other stuff we looked at is we need to prioritize pedestrian and bike infrastructure for access to RTD before we prioritize stuff like park and rides, etc. And that is absolutely something that should complement this plan. Right now, RTD can sometimes even be anti-pedestrian and bicycle because crossings can slow down buses, but that's the exact opposite of how we should be looking at this. Let's see, how can we better integrate transit with other modes of transportation? I just harped on that a bit, but We should consider other stuff like basically stuff that Joel was working on, but let's extend it further. So stuff like bicycle and scooter share, integration with transit network, and considering stuff like bike lockers are very effective. Consider those more, as well as bike valet service. And number 3 considers land use around stops to better increase ridership. Hear me out on this. We should just exempt zoning requirements around stations. And so, you know, if you want to build tall next to a station, that's where it should be. So, yep.
Alrighty. So we talked about what physical changes we would like to see at bus stops and just in buses in general. And the first barrier we really hit on was the bus is a lot slower than driving generally. So we identified 2 potential solutions to this. One is stop consolidation. You know, there's kind of a balance really between having too many stops and too few stops. And we really think we need to find that balance. We talked about that there's different spacing methodologies here in the States and over in Europe, and maybe we need to really look at those. The other one we talked about is transit signal priority. Buses oftentimes get stuck at stoplights forever, and that really slows down the route even more, especially when you're already stopping at a bunch of places. So transit signal priority is a big one. We then shifted gears to talk a little more about safety, which is a really big topic, I feel like, at these meetings and just in general with RTD. And one of the things we hit on is cameras. Some people may not see the cameras on the buses. They may think they're fake and they're just there for show. So we talked about potentially implementing a technology where maybe have a screen in the bus and you can see live camera feed to know that the camera is actually working, recording you. And if you do something stupid or illegal, well, people can actually find you. So we talked about that with safety. And that segues perfectly into the actual bus stops themselves. Things like lighting are super important. Put stops in locations that are accessible for pedestrians and for bicyclists. So not having them next to a super busy road, maybe having them a little more separated, having them next to crosswalks, maybe with pedestrian lights so people driving down can actually see the folks getting on and off the bus. And then one major thing we hit on is a lot of times transit riders feel like they are not a part of the community that they are in. And what I mean by that is sometimes transit riders are treated like second-class citizens, and that's just not a cultural thing. It also can be reflected in the design of the bus stations and the design of the built environment. So we talked about really trying to make our bus stations more a part of the community that they are serving. And that's not only through location, but it's also through the design. So a bunch of different physical changes there. Some of them a little easier, like lighting. Some of them maybe a little more difficult, but all things to think about. So thank you.
Cool. Group 4, we talked about propaganda, how to get people to believe in us. The first part is messaging. So what are some cool campaign messages, like messaging we can do when we rebrand, redesign our bus system or our transit network? Things like cheer on the home team with the Rockies ride or the Broncos ride. This bus didn't get where you want it to go. Now it does. So have this idea of like rebranding, that kind of thing. Next thing, stakeholder engagement. Who do we need? All the state people, all the city people, all the county people, all the people you would think. Also the universities, that's a huge population I think is underserved. So CU, DU, MSU, those people. Let's see, expanding audiences. So reaching new riders. So we kind of circled back to the sports stuff. So sports rides and then Red Rocks rides as well. Cool slogans like let RTD be your DD. I think that'd be cool. And then also paratransit tourism. We can like capture some of those costs with paratransit with tax revenue from the tourism. And then things we should be worried about, cautious of, is rideability, right? So if we tell people, oh, take the bus to the concert and the bus doesn't take you home from the concert, then that's not very useful. That's about it.
All right, thank you. And back to Saga Paul. Here you are, sir.
Alrighty, well, that concludes this little fun activity. If these kind of conversations excited you, if you feel like, you don't feel like we've hit all of the points you wanted to talk about, this is really the space for y'all. We need a ton of volunteers, a ton of hands to bring this across the line. Our goal at a high level is to, by end of year, start socializing these with the stakeholders that were mentioned by Group 4. So if this excites you, a few ways you can get involved. Easiest one is come talk to Cody, myself, Joe, Keith, Maitri. We can get you connected and involved very quickly. Way number 2 is on the Slack channel, there is a tab called Ridership Growth. If you join that, any meeting we have, any requests, any workshops, all of that are going to be on that channel. So be sure you are a part of that. And on that note, later than usual, I will give it to.
All right, thank you very much. Give those guys and that team. Okay, so bizarrely, I think very roughly and quite uniquely for GDT, we're sort of on time on our end. We're going to have... Yeah, what time is it, guys? To get there, people on time. So we're going to have a couple of minutes here. We're networking while we pack up. In the room, just say, we've got 3 RTD directors. We've been joined by Director Rusha during that activity. There are also 3 potential directors in the room. I can call out Jack, launched his campaign. Coleman, okay, and he's on his phone in the corner, but he's wearing a badge that says Transform. I think he said GDT there, RTD, and maybe if you buy him enough beers, he might admit to being a candidate. Okay, so, and then we're all going to go over in about 20 minutes, something like that, to the terminal bar, and we can continue the conversation. Thank you very much. It is amazing. You guys all show up every month, sorry. I wish you, from our leadership team, good night.